Hello, welcome to this week's Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson here with Kay Johnson.
Hello, hello.
What you reading, Kay?
Not a darn thing. I have no Kindle, so I'm really depressed. Not quite, but actually I found a new series that I'm sort of taken with. It's by an author named David Handler.
Okay.
And the series features a fellow named Stuart and his dog. And the dog is a basset hound, Lulu.
Okay.
And he was like a whiz kid out of college, wrote this hot novel. It was like the toast of the town, New York.
Yeah.
And then he got writer's block and crashed and burned. And he married a famous actress and she dumped him. And so he ends up in this like one bedroom apartment with, he got the dog though, that's important to note. He got the dog, she got the Jaguar, but he got the dog. And so he becomes a ghostwriter.
Okay.
And throughout this, he's talking about his own books, but he ends up being a ghostwriter and writing bestsellers for different people. And unfortunately, when you're telling people's darkest secrets, there's people who don't want those told. So there's always a body or two that happen to show up. And he goes by the name of Hoagie, and they always say, like Hoagie Carmichael, and he goes, no, like the sandwich. And so they're really good. I have to say that I was surprised. I came across it on my Kindle when I still had one, and for $1.99 I ended up downloading and actually paying for the rest of them because they were that good.
And now you can't read them.
Well, I'm done reading them actually, so I'm okay. But yeah, that would really be stressful if I was in the middle of one. But I'd have to read it on my phone using the Kindle app.
Yeah.
And like you said, that gets tiresome after a while because it's not that big. But I would highly recommend David Handler's book. And what's interesting about it is he wrote these books like 10 or 15 years ago and stopped writing them because he thought they were no longer culturally relevant. And anyway, somebody approached him and he's redoing, he's publishing new books. A new one came out this year, earlier with Hoagie and Lulu. And so they now must be culturally significant again.
Hoagie and Lulu.
Yes. And and he dresses really well. He has all custom made clothes. Yeah. Even his shoes.
Those two names together make me think of the cats from Lillian Jackson Brown, Coco and Yum Yum.
Yeah, that's about it. Hoagie and Lulu.
Lulu, except they're not.
So David Handler, and you can get them at the library. He's got several series, but this is the only one I've read so far.
Okay.
But I do recommend it if you're into just kind of fun stories with an animal character. And Lulu does solve crimes. So, like, what's his name's cat?
Like Coco and Yum
Yes.
Yum? Yeah.
So what are you reading, Betsy?
Well, on the new series front, I just started, the series is called The Finishing School. And the first one is called Etiquette and Espionage.
That's sort of interesting.
It's by Gail Carringer, I believe it is. And these books are written in the steampunk genre. So they're set in the Victorian era with all kinds of steam-powered doodads and gizmos. And so the main character is sent off to a finishing school. And when she gets there, she discovers that this is not your traditional finishing school, as when she's heading there, they are set upon by highwaymen trying to kidnap them. And she discovers that the finishing school is actually a giant dirigible.
Oh.
And it's actually a spy training academy.
And did she want to be a spy?
She had no idea what was going on.
So who decided she should be a spy?
Somebody said she should go there, and her mom shipped her off. And so it's her trying to find her way through this new world where it's a balance between a traditional finishing school and this spy training. And she has it's called a mechanimal. So it's a mechanical dachshund.
Well, that's interesting.
For a pet that chases her around the ship. And so I finished, the first one was the Etiquette and Espionage, and I've started the second one, which is called Corsets and Conspiracies.
So how many are there?
I think there are at least 4 or 5, and I think it's a young adult genre, but they're really interesting. It's her trying to figure out what's all going on in this world with, there are vampires, there are werewolves that are out and about, and so there's that stuff, and then all these different gizmos and gadgets and mechanical things that she's dealing with while trying to.
So is she part of a group? Like a gang?
It's all these girls that are at this finishing school. They're all girls that are there training to become these spies and intelligencers and all these different characters. And then there's a school for boys to become evil geniuses. And yeah, it's really interesting. And I was a little confused with the first one because I hadn't read I didn't know a whole lot about the steampunk kind of vein of things. And I have a friend who knows a bit about it, so I have to be like, Jeremy, what is this? What am I missing? And he'll be like, oh, it's because of this. And I'm like, well, thanks. But I really enjoyed them. They're quick reads. I've gotten them ebook from the library, but it's just a fun series, and it's kind of nice to just
veg out
and not have to think quite so.
Like Animal Farm?
Like Animal Farm, yes.
I can understand that.
Yeah, then this is in no way a classic, but it's just fun. It's one of those books that you can just pull out and read.
And there's a lot to be said for that, I think. We don't always have to be reading these big tomes of Hamilton and all this stuff. It's sometimes nice to read just escapism.
Yeah, but then I did read another nonfiction, though, kind of to balance out the steampunk with real life. And I read a book called The Library Book by Susan Orlean. And I'm
on the list for this one.
Yes, I got it before you. And so this is about a lady moved to Los Angeles, and she was speaking with the librarian at the Central Library in Los Angeles, and he makes a comment about how you can still... He makes a comment about how the books smell, and she's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, they still smell like fire from when our library burnt down. And she didn't know anything about it. And so back in, I don't remember if it was 1986 or 1984. It happened the same week as the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster, which is why not everybody heard about it. But for some reason, one morning, somebody set the library on fire.
And this is a big central...
The big central hub with everything coming in and out, like their big head of their branch library. And so the book goes through them talking about what happened with the fire, the recovery, the effort to fix everything. But it also goes back and talks about the history of the library system in Los Angeles. It talks about all the different people who have been head librarian. It talks about kind of how it works now with who oversees what the librarian, like the head librarian does. Like, it's not just sitting there helping people with books. It's overseeing all the different programs they offer. And she talks all the different programs they offer, how, it's everything that, all the needs the library meets in a community.
Would you recommend it?
Yes. Yep.
So it's worth being on the list.
It is worth being on the list. It was really, really enjoyable. And I mean, I worked at the Hutchinson Library for a couple of years in high school. And I mean, it's things you don't really think about, like the fact that the head of the library would oversee all of the buildings, and there'd be a different person who would oversee programs, and they'd have... and it's the people that are cataloging all of their collections, like people will donate photographs and then they have to go through and scan them in and figure out tags to put on them. And it's just interesting too how the different people that were overseeing the library kind of ran it differently. Mm-hmm. So like you had a couple ladies that ran stuff, and then you had they were like, well, we want you to quit because we actually think a man should have this job.
Well, there we go.
So there was some stuff that went with that whole deal, and it was really interesting. I mean, and then it talks about the person they think set the fire, and then what happened to them, and all that kind of stuff. So,
now I really want to read it.
Yes, I couldn't put it down.
Wow, maybe I'm next.
Yes.
Maybe I should check this out.
Yeah, no, it was really good, and I have a friend who's a librarian, and I was like, "Have you read this?" And she's like, "No, I've been thinking about it though." And I was like, "I think you would find it interesting." I said, "It's not even so much about just the fire. There's so much more to it that I wouldn't have. And it's kind of interesting because it's something that I don't think a lot of people really knew about because of the timing of it. I think it was mostly something that a lot of people in LA were familiar with.
I have to say I didn't know about it till I read it in a magazine or book, online or something, and caught my eye, and I thought, oh, this is interesting.
No, it was really good. I read it very quickly.
One thing I have to say about just on the topic of libraries is I am amazed at all the programs libraries are now offering compared to like 5 years ago even.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing because I'm now doing, for the leader I do an A&E calendar, and I'm also doing one now for Litchfield.
Okay.
And so I have Litchfield and Dassel and Cosmos and Hutch and all these different libraries. And it's amazing, all the programs for kids and for during the day, during the evening, weekends. And the Hutch Library's really kicked it up too. They've got 2 Master Gardener programs coming up. They've got, they did a whole slew of author programs last fall. And it's all because of legacy funding. So it's really great.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting.
And it's free. That's the very best part.
Yeah.
For people and families and things. I mean, I just think the library card to me is like the greatest thing on earth. It's like the golden ticket from the Willy Wonka.
Yeah. Well, it comes up every Christmas, and it shows a little boy sitting on Santa's lap, and he's saying, oh, I want to travel the world. Oh, I want to do this, and I want to learn all kinds of things. And Santa goes, here's your library card. And that's the big thing. Here you go. Here's your ticket to the world.
Yeah, it's so amazing to me, though, how, when I was growing up, they literally, you just checked out books.
Yeah.
And now you can do movies, you can do books on CD, there's free internet, there's magazines and newspapers and the ebooks you can download and all these programs. I mean, it's like each library is like a park and rec department.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really astonishing to me how great it is. And
there was a thing, again, on a book group I'm in, that somebody had posted that even in 2018 that like independent bookstores sales are up.
Yes.
Books, like actual book sales are up too and all that too. So that was really, I was like, well, that's a good way to end 2018 on a positive note. People are reading.
I can tell you why hardcover books are on up, because publishers have raised the price of ebooks.
Yeah.
This year, several books that I have actually, I admit to purchasing, but I had to think about. They're now $14.99. I can buy a hardcover book at Target for like $19, $17.99, $21.99.
Yeah.
I mean, why would I buy an ebook? And I love ebooks, but it really irritated me because I thought, hello, you're not. There's no paper, there's no ink, there's nothing here. Why are you charging me so much? And so maybe I don't feel that bad about losing my Kindle.
What else have you been reading?
Oh, I've returned to another mystery series. I swear to God, there are no books being written today that are not a series. Every book has a series. There's very few standalones anymore. And I mean, I get that from a marketing standpoint. If Hoagie and Lulu sold, let's do more. But sometimes you just sort of think, I mean, I love all these characters, but sometimes you just want a standalone book. But I'm rereading Margaret Truman's series, the Capital Crimes mystery series.
Okay.
And there's like 25 books. And her characters, her protagonists, are a married couple, Mackenzie Smith, a law professor, and Annabelle Reed, who owns a gallery.
Okay.
And I can't remember, I'd have to go back to the beginning, but I think they meet and then end up dating and getting married and all that sort of thing. But what's interesting is the books take place in famous places. So there's like the White House, Capitol Hill, Supreme Court, Kennedy Center, National Gallery, Watergate, on and on and on. But they're usually pretty good. But the thing that I find so funny is anytime I pick up one of these books, it always ends up being the exact same book. And so I start reading it and I think, oh gosh, I know these people. I've read this book. And so I literally had to write down the title on my phone so I wouldn't keep picking up the same darn book.
Oh gosh.
But so anyway, those are some that are kind of fun, and they're classics in the sense that they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
And people still read them.
Okay.
So what else?
I read The Clockmaker's Daughter. That's the new Kate Morton book that just came out. It was okay.
Oh.
I mean, her books sort of follow the same pattern. You know, it's something set in modern time that's impacted by something that's happened, and it's how it all kind of overlaps until we wrap it all up in this nice little bow. But her last couple, the bows wrap up just a little too neatly to the point where you're like,
oh.
And this one was about the same. I mean, I enjoy her writing, and the characters are always different, but her format, for me, it's getting kind of
boring.
Yeah, it's kind of predictable how things are gonna, this is always gonna overlap, and then these people that are talking here are eventually gonna meet these people, and then
it's all gonna work out. And
not only that, but this person in the current, our current day person is somehow connected to our past person, but it's a little too little too neat, not. Sometimes, I mean, it's nice when books, everything's wrapped up, you know what happens to everybody, but sometimes it's nice to have, you don't have to wrap every single little string into place.
That's true. Sometimes yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's too bad. What else? Anything else?
I also read, by Robin Sloan, I read a book called Sourdough, and this is about a woman who works for an IT coding company that make these like mechanical arms that are taking over like
the world
production jobs. Yes. And she randomly gets a flyer for a takeout food company, and so she orders this sandwich and this soup, and it's like the best thing she's ever eaten, and so she starts ordering it every single day. And so she gets to know the delivery guy and his brother who run the company, and she really likes their sourdough bread. So the brothers move away, and they leave her this sourdough starter. And so she's never cooked anything. Like, she has a kitchen, but she's never used it because she's always at work. And so she starts making this sourdough bread. And of course, it's a special sourdough bread, because this is also the guy that wrote the Mr. Penumbrum's 24-Hour Bookstore that I've talked about in a previous episode. So it's sort of a kind of a realist magic is tied in with the real world. And so it's everything it's how her life changes based with this sourdough bread.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good. Parts of it are interesting. Like, for some reason, her bread will have a face in it when it's done. Like, it'll be a happy face, or if it's not made quite right, it'll look kind of sick. And then it's everything that happens as she looks into then selling the bread, and then she's trying to figure out, well, if I can't make enough in my oven, how do I build an oven outside? And then she goes into this kind of farmer's market, and it's very interesting. And then she's talking to the guys that gave her the sourdough starter, kind of learning more about them, and it's just kind of her kind of coming out of her shell and seeing she can do different things besides what she thought she could do. So yeah, it was really interesting.
So did they have a recipe?
There's no recipe in this book.
I thought maybe for sourdough.
I did really, really want to make sourdough bread after I read the book.
That has a way of happening.
Yes,
you're right.
It did. Yeah, but it was good. It was a quick read, which was nice.
Interesting.
So, this was a standalone book.
So there are some out there.
There are some out there, yes. Yep.
Well, I've been making a list of books I want to read this year.
Yeah.
So topping my list is The Crucible by James Rollins, which is a Sigma Force book. Yes. And it's one of a series. Mm-hmm. And arriving home on Christmas Eve, Commander Gray Pierce finds his lover missing and his best friend's wife unconscious on the floor.
Dun, dun, dun.
And but this is usually how his books start. I mean, they usually start with a bang, and then...
Yeah.
And Sigma Force, these are scientists with guns. These are all like PhD people who are special forces. So that comes out January 22nd. So I have to have a Kindle by then. So I can get it instantly. Another one I'm looking for, and I actually downloaded a sample of this one, West Like Lightning by Jim DeFelice, I think it is. But it's a story of, he was co-author of American Sniper.
Okay,
Which was made into a movie. But it's about the story of the Pony Express. And I don't know if you remember, but years ago when you folks lived in Missouri, Kansas, we went to St. Joseph and we went to the Pony Express Museum.
Don't know if I remember that.
And the interesting thing is...
I'm sure there's pictures of it somewhere.
I'm sure we do. The Pony Express was only around for 18 months. And yet people know it today even. I mean, it isn't something that died out in the passage of time. And it's interesting because the guys riding horses, for some reason I thought they went great distances, but they were really only like maybe 10 miles to each link.
Okay.
The guy might have ridden like 50 miles, but changed horses like 5 times.
Okay.
Or something like that. And I thought that was very, very interesting. So I am on order for that book.
Okay.
Another one I'm looking forward to is called The Victory Garden by Reese Bowen.
Okay.
And she's famous for a series called Royal Spy Mysteries.
Okay.
And I can't think of her protagonist's name, but her claim to fame is she's like 46 to the crown of Britain or something. And so she's got a title but no money. Okay. So she's got to like earn money. So she's forever like going to host parties for people and different things. But the author, Reese Bowen, has come out with 3 standalones.
Okay.
And the first one was In Farley Field, and it's a World War II novel. And then the second was The Tuscan Child, which is a daughter goes back and learns about her dad's World War II career. Okay. And then the third one that's coming out now is called The Victory Garden, which comes out, I think, in February. And it's about World War I.
Okay.
And stuff. And so that one I think looks really interesting. Have you ever read any of Charles Finch's books?
No.
Well, Charles Finch is an author, and he's written 11 or 12 books with his character's name is Charles Lennox. And these all take place like in the mid to late 1800s. Okay. And Charles Lennox is a wealthy man. In the first book, lives next door to this woman who he's been best friends with his whole life. And somewhere along the line, it dawns on them they should get married. So now they connect the houses, I think, is what they do. Okay. But he's wealthy, of course, and he ends up serving in Parliament. Okay. And his brother serves in Parliament, and he ends up leaving Parliament and opening a detective agency. But they're really good, but for some reason, the author, Charles Finch, is coming out with prequels before
Gee, that sounds like someone we've talked about.
And so
George R.R. Martin.
The first prequel was Woman in the Water, released last year. Okay. And now, this year, he's bringing out The Vanishing Man. And so I really like his work. If you like Anne Perry's work, because she does the period novels, the Victorian, you would like Charles Lennox. Okay. They're really Charles Finch is a great writer, really a great writer, and so those books are really, really good. Okay. Yeah. Another one you might be looking forward to, Betsy, because I know you're a fan of Joanne Fluke. Number 24 in the Hannah Swenson series.
Oh gosh, I have so far to go.
The Chocolate Cream Pie Murder.
Oh, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, well, that's a problem when you read those books, is they do make you hungry. All of a sudden, you want sandwiches and sourdough bread and chocolate cream pie and oh, heaven knows what else.
Oh, gosh.
I have a long list of books I want to read.
I know, and we'll have to talk about them next time.
Oh, are we already out of time?
We have reached the end of our show this week. So if you have books that you can't wait for, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, or at our email, offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com. And we will see you next time.